Okay, I call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Elgin City Council on this 18th day of May, 2021 at 7 p.m. We'll go to roll call. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Frazier here.
Ramirez here.
Vega here.
Gibson here. Maldonado here. Callahan here. Ibis here.
Dennis here.
Let the record show we have a quorum, all members present. Next, we'll go to invocation. We'll bow our heads, please. We ask for strength for a strong back and clear eyes. Help us concentrate our thoughts and our actions on the task at hand. We know it will not be easy, but let us be confident it will be worth it. Let us learn to listen and not just hear, and let us not forget to lift our council and our communities for the good of all. Amen. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas flag pledge, please. Honor of the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. I'd like to welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. Council, staff, and all the citizens, thank you for coming. Next on the agenda is public comment. At this point in time, we have one public comment, which I will read. We received this via email. It says, please include this commentary at your upcoming meeting, and it's from Jerry Garcia, owner of River Lofts. I am in strong support of paving of downtown alleys. The alleyways are currently in disrepair and dire need of paving. With the increased density in the historic district, these alleyways are seeing more activity from businesses as well as downtown dwellers. In their current neglected condition, these areas are becoming dangerous and are becoming a liability to the buildings they service. The repaving of the alleyways will increase the desirability for business to occupy the historic district and offer safe pedestrian circulation throughout. Please keep the paving of the alleyways among majority support projects. Thank you, Jerry Garcia, co-owner, River Lofts. Okay, the other public comments will be done during business here. On our agenda next is the oath of office for the new city council members. We did that at the specially called meeting last night, so there's no need to do that. Next is item number 7, city manager's report. And first of all is quarterly investment report, second fiscal year quarter 2021, January through March 2021. We do have a public comment concerning that, and that is from Stephanie Lipke. Ms. Lipke? Of course, keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Okay, just making sure this is on. Good evening. The resounding majority of the Elgin citizens wanted the wastewater and the water treatment issues to be addressed immediately, especially when they were informed about the $6.35 million from the 2016 and 2019 bond money that was allocated to the wastewater treatment plant in those years. It was never used for that purpose. The City Council has a fiduciary responsibility to their constituents to ensure funds asked for and allocated to specific capital projects are used solely on those specific capital projects and not used on financial place fillers. Look at the first quarter investment page. I've included it in your packet from January 19th of this year. It's from the city manager report then as well. The second quarter investment page is in your packet that you got this evening. I've included both of them and they're highlighted to draw your attention to the money in the 2016 and 2019 bond proceeds. Also included is page 12 from the presentation that y'all been showing throughout this CO process. You can see from the highlighted areas that the money earmarked for wastewater, it's not that $6.3 million anymore. Take the time to look at all three side by side and you will see these funds are not entirely there. These quarterly finance reports have ending amount funds on deposit from the first quarter for $3.66 million and beginning amount of $2.39 million for the second quarter. These amounts should be the same. The quarter ends, the quarter begins, there's no change in the money. They aren't. They're completely different. In fact, they are off by $1.27 million. That's a huge mistake. The beginning date is from 2020 instead of 2021. The ending date is March 31st of 2021, meaning that this quarter covered 15 months instead of 3 months. Financial reports which are not accurate diminish the public's trust and bring about questions of transparency and accurate fiduciary responsibility. Please review these records before approving them this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's continue, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is for a quarterly investment report that we're compelled to bring to council each quarter. So that's why we're here tonight. Charles, you want to speak to this?
Yeah, I think maybe there's some misunderstanding about the balance in the 2016 COs. That project was started already. We've incurred a tremendous amount of engineering costs. So there's almost $1 million, which is what is supposed to be missing, that was paid to the engineers for the geotech and the design and all those, plus we've had other expenses related to the wastewater plant. So that's the second quarter report. This one, previously I had my staff doing that report. Our new financial analyst this was the first quarter, and she came to me and she said that she found an error in the previous one, and so this one is a corrected copy.
What was the error, Charles?
It was, she didn't explain what it was. She just said that there had been an error in the previous reports and that she had corrected this one.
And was it to the good or to the bad of the bottom line there?
It was to the good. I mean, she didn't really explain to me what it was, so can't speak to that.
Council, does anybody have any questions or comments?
I just have a quick comment, if I could, Mayor, that although we've discussed this repeatedly in the past, it's the money that was set aside for the wastewater treatment plant in the previous issues was a planned step that the council was well aware of. We had costs that we incurred. We knew at that time that it would not be enough. Obviously, the sewer plant project is a $15 million project. We couldn't sign a $15 million contract with only $6 million, so we knew we had to add to that. It makes the impact of the current bond issue even less. We have to borrow $6 million less because we were able to save that money from the prior issues. But we've discussed that previously, showed that to council in virtually every conversation. I mean, that's clearly on the record is what our approach was to that project.
Is that it, Charles?
As always, if anybody has any follow-up questions, we'd be glad to try to answer them.
What I would like to
Reach out
know
to
is
us.
what the error was. Could you get that to us in an email form?
Sure.
And what effect it was?
Yeah, I'll get.
Thank you. Okay.
I just have one question. So are the dates on that correct? Should that, under the capital improvement funds?
Should have been January 2021.
So it should be 20. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I don't really have anything else under my report, Mayor, unless anybody has any questions about the monthly reports or any general questions for me.
Are we under a departmental monthly report? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Council? General activity report? Do you have anything under general activity report?
I don't, unless anybody had any questions about
Okay,
it.
obviously, the council has been spending the last few meetings almost exclusively on the COs. Next meeting, I would like to catch up on this departmental monthly report and general activity report, if there's anything to report, other than what we haven't discussed already, having to do with any of the bonds.
Well, we read items that we have for discussion, we try to list and specifically under the agenda. This general activity report is just an opportunity for
Okay.
council members to just ask questions about
Okay,
anything we've got going on or items that aren't on the agenda.
okay. I would imagine that our next meeting, since we'll be past the bond project, I would imagine that we'll go back to more of regular type business that we normally deal with, so, okay.
We'll actually be starting on the 5-year plan at the next meeting.
Yeah, well, that's normal nowadays, but, yeah, and the budget soon after that, I understand that.
That's right.
but, Yeah. Okay, let's go to the consent agenda. All of the items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion, 1 second, and 1 vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member removes an item from the consent agenda and places it on the new business section or discussion and action. So I will entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda, which consists of city council regular and special meeting minutes, unless there's amendments to be made.
Mayor,
Yes,
I'd like to pass motion for the consent agenda with the exception of the changes that I have already turned into the city secretary.
okay. You've already turned the changes in? Okay, so do I hear a motion to pass the consent agenda with the changes as noted to the city secretary?
Just clarify, we didn't make changes, you made
Edits.
typos.
Yeah.
Yes, edits, yes, right.
I changed Greg Hennig to Grant Hennig.
Okay. Any questions on the change that Mayor Pro Tem Brasher made on the minutes? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, the motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, seconded by Councilmember Dennis to approve the consent agenda with the change made. We'll go to a vote, please. Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Brazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Ibis, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on in the agenda, we have new business. Item number 1, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Elgin, Texas Combination Tax and Revenue Certificates of Obligation Series 2021, levying an how do you pronounce that word? Yeah, that word. Tax and pledging certain surplus revenues in support of the certificates, approving an official statement, a paying agent registrar agreement, and other agreements relating to the sale and issuance of the certificates, and ordaining other matters relating to the issuance of the certificates. We do have a public comment. Ms. Stephanie Lipke, if you'll step up, please. Same rules apply?
All right, on March 9th and March 23rd, I submitted letters to be read in public comments regarding the use of the certificate of obligation bonds instead of taking these needs to the voters in Elgin. I've included these letters from the minutes in this packet. Many citizens spoke up with concerns about not getting to vote on these issues. They were ignored and even mocked by a former city council member. If the voters were trusted from the start, these projects would have been voted on in the last election and could have been moved forward instead of just getting started. Your work on this issue hasn't been for nothing, nor is it unappreciated. The majority of Elgin voters want these 5-year capital improvement projects to come to fruition. They just had no clue this process was even going on. Never heard a word about it. This is the greatest hurdle the city council has right now. Informing your voters and citizens of issues facing the city. The city council needs to reach more than the 10% of the population that reads the Elgin Courier. The city Elgin needs to reach the city of Elgin reaches every citizen with their water bill monthly. This is your opportunity to use a cost-effective one-sheeter to inform the voters and citizens of the needs of the city. People don't come and speak at the meetings because they didn't even know there was anything to speak about. Transparency and communication need to be developed and implemented by the city of Elgin more effectively going forward, and by doing so, the city council can rebuild the public's trust. I've spoken to hundreds of people over the past few weeks, and people support this city and want to be involved in the process. They just need to know when, where, and what time to show up. Citizens want business and industry growth to take the burden off their property taxes, and they want to have a say in this process. With exponential growth and development, there needs to be a balance with business and industry growth to meet our needs of our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Tom, if you'll continue on with
All
this
right.
ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is the ordinance that we've discussed for some time and actually reviewed last night. We got a kind of a brief presentation this evening. This first ordinance is I assume you got the one, it's the one we handed out as we talked about last night. The way the bond sale works, the sale was made today, or a commitment was made today, and we secured an interest rate to move forward with the project. And so, and the council made some changes in the project purpose. This is probably the most, although it's a big ordinance with a lot of details, this is one of the more pertinent sections of the ordinance, which specifically controls and how these dollars can be spent. As we've talked about over and over, any debt issue is a highly restricted issue. Dollars can only be spent for the specified purpose that's in the legal document, and can only even then be authorized for expenditure by a vote of the city council. And of course, the city council can only make those votes in open public meetings. So this is the revised section of the certificates that, or the purpose in the ordinance that we changed based on council's decision last night. This is a spreadsheet that kind of shows where we started to where we ended up, but this is basically the recap of the projects that the council directed us to proceed with the ordinance on last night. So with that, we're going to start first with Chris Allen is going to brief the council on what we heard today from the bond market.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Is this on? Can you hear me?
It is.
For the record, again, my name is Chris Allen with RBC Capital Markets. Represent you as financial advisor. As Mr. Mattis said, we are in the market today for the certificates of obligation issue as well as the general obligation refunding bonds to affect savings on some of your current outstanding debt. I'm happy to be here to present the results. We had a very good day in the market. You'll see there, you should have in front of you a little brief presentation. I'll briefly walk you through that. To put things in perspective, the first couple of pages is a general market overview. You'll see there, well, in short, the financial markets are really good. Interest rates are very low. It's a very good time to be in the market to issue debt. You'll see there on page 2, the lower left-hand corner, there is an Mmd Yield Index that we follow in the municipal bond market. You'll see there, the top line is the 15-year average where interest rates are, and then the blue line is where interest rates, or excuse me, the blue line is where interest rates were this time last year, and the green line represents where interest rates are today. thus giving you some context as to where interest rates have been. There's very little supply in the market, meaning there's very little issuers such as yourself that have bonds out there, so there's less bonds for purchase, meaning less competition, so there's a lot of eyes on your bonds, meaning or generating a lower yield or lower borrowing cost for you. The next page is a summary of another index, the current market review. It's the Bond Buyer Index 20. It's an index of 20 GO bonds, and that graph there shows you rates since 1961. Rates have not been lower than where you were today since 1961. So again, perfect time to be in the market. Next page is really the good information. There's a summary there of the results of the combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation. And you'll see there that, well, let me back up. So this morning, Stiefel Nicholas is who the lead underwriter was, acting as your underwriter, marketing your bonds. We went out to the market at 8:50 this morning. By 9:30, we had almost the entire loan sold. And on top of that, each maturity was oversubscribed, meaning they had more investors putting dollars towards those maturities. When we entered the market, we felt like, Stiefel had gone out with very aggressive interest rates, very low interest rates to start with. With that oversubscription, we were able to come back and renegotiate those rates lower. So at the end of the day, we saw oversubscription along the maturity scale of anywhere from 2 to 5 times oversubscribed. So as a result of that, we were able to lower the yields anywhere from 2 to 4 basis points. So 2/100ths of a percent to 4/100ths of a percent. So without being too technical, we were able to lower what we thought the rates were going to be when we entered the market. So that being said, if you look at the middle column on the upper right-hand corner, or left-hand corner, excuse me, you'll see there that the all-in true interest cost on these bonds, 25-year certificate of obligation, you were able to achieve 2.5%. That's 25 years. I mean, I'd love to borrow at that rate. But anyway, so congratulations. Very successful there. Successful sale. We were able to issue $12.8 million to generate the $14.4 million that you needed for your projects that you decided on last night. The next very important thing I'd like to point out is, along with those certificate obligations, we were able to apprise you of a refunding opportunity where you were able to refinance some of your outstanding bonds to achieve savings. Those bonds, we were able to achieve an all-in true interest cost of 2.1%, which generated a gross savings of $2 million. That goes back to your, to the citizens and the taxpayers in lower cost to them. So congratulations there. Just to name a few of the players, your bond attorney, McCall, Parkhurst, and Horton, Clayton Chandler is in the back. He'll be talking to you a little bit later about the documents that you have to sign, or that you'll need to sign. Again, the senior underwriter was Stiefel Nicholas, did a very good job. And one thing I'd also like to point out, which is very important, as you know, when we go out, or when the city goes out to issue bonds, we must go in front of the credit rating agencies. The council has been working over the last couple of years to try to improve the credit rating. And with this financing, we were able to get an uptick in your rating. It went from Baa1 with a negative outlook to a Baa1 positive outlook. Much of that has to do with the financial policy, the formal financial policies you put in place. You've added back to the general fund. And so for that, they recognize that, and that's back to you guys and your hard decisions in financial planning. So all that being said, I certainly recommend approval at these rates, and thank you for the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Chris, real quick, can you talk about the premium as well that we?
Oh, yeah, so you'll see there that we issued less than the 14, the par amount, or the projects that you were looking to fund was 14.6 million, I believe, was roughly.
Yep, right.
We were able to issue 12.8 million, which generates the amount of proceeds. So when we enter the market, there was so much demand for your bonds, it generated a premium. So therefore, the investors were willing to pay you a premium for your bonds because they were so sought after. So you were able to issue less bonds and generate the same amount of proceeds. And without getting too technical, I think it's a function of rates are so low and there's a lack of supply. So people are willing to pay more money for what they might ordinarily pay for bonds.
So we gained an additional 1.8 million through that premium as well.
Aside from the 1.6
Wait,
that we were able to save on the.
oh, the 2 million on the refunding?
Right.
Yes,
Right,
correct.
that's right.
Oh, yes, it was 2.7.
The present value dollars, if you were to present value that back, that brings you back to the 1.6 million.
And what was the previous rate on that particular, those bonds?
There was four different,
The average coupon on there?
the average coupon of the refunded bonds?
Oh, okay, that's the average of all four? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was 3.7 and now.
So it was 2.1.
John?
That's,
Right, it went
that's
from
just excellent.
3.7
That's
to
just-
2.1%.
Yeah.
Correct.
So as we anticipated, this was a great time to issue debt. It would have been,
Very good time.
the time to issue as much debt as possible. Would have resulted in the biggest savings possible for our taxpayers moving forward. So it's a good thing we were at least able to capitalize on this. It's unfortunate we weren't able to do the whole project, but we're really pleased with this outcome, and it's pretty simple. It's complicated math, but it's pretty simple, direct benefit to the city and our taxpayers in a lot of ways.
Mr. Allen, that's just, everything you've brought us tonight is just great news. It's just, I mean, as a council, I can't help but smile at the rates that we got this and the amounts that we asked for, and it's nice to see that our Moody rating, our bond rating is, and that's something that we've been working on, especially, you said 2 years, and I'm sure it has been, but especially since I've been on here, I've been pushing that, and Charles and the city manager and council have all worked on that, so that's nice to see that it's improving. It's not where it needs to be, but it's getting, going in the right
Well, and
direction.
that positive outlook generally means that continuing what you're doing means that you're about to be pushed to the next. I mean, there's upward pressure on your rating.
We were close to getting an upgrade in our rating, but we should do that next time if we can continue on the same track. Chris, can you, and getting back to the interest rate, I think most people don't anticipate these rates staying around. A year from now, the rates will likely be higher.
No, I mean, I don't think that we expect to see interest rates spike up in the near term. I think what our economists are telling us and what we're seeing in the market is that rates are going to continue to trickle up gently. But yes, we're heading and moving upward, yes.
Man, this is just good news.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Because like this slide that's up there, the estimated issuing cost was 420,000. What is the issuing cost on this? I just didn't see it in the.
So the issuance cost is you know, our fee, the lawyer fees, the underwriter fees, all the fees associated with.
Right, but is that what it came out to be? Is
No, it
the-
actually came out to less than.
Okay, that's what I was
Yes.
kind of wondering.
Yeah, I mean-
Is it in here?
No, but we can, I don't think we have the complete breakout, but that's something.
We don't have the final cost on it yet.
Okay, I was just kind of wondering, and the other thing that, you know, I don't know if you could kind of explain is, you know, like when we were originally, you know, talking about the higher amount, the issuing costs for, you know, additional 10 million, basically doubled the issuing costs. Is that kind of a, you know, I was just wondering why such a big jump and, you know, why such a big decrease, you know, by just decreasing it, you know, by 10 million?
The par amount, because we decreased it from even the 14 million to the 12 million issuance, I mean, the costs are contingent on what the par amount is. So the less you borrow in par amount, the lower that number is. And when we were looking at issuing 25 million plus the 9 million, it was significantly higher than where we are today. And you know, and when we project, I mean, we always project a little high on the cost because we don't want to, you know, come in here and tell you that it's less and then have to tell you that, you know, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to pay, you know, $100,000 more than that. So there was some cushion in there, you know, for prudency. So some of that was, you know, numbers that we didn't have until the day we priced, you know, because a lot of times those costs are contingent on what happens in the market that day as well.
Right, yeah. What I'm, you know, just kind of wondering is, you know, for like the next, you know, bond issuance, is that normally, you know, if you reduce it by 10 million, you know, but if you reduce it less than half, you know, it halves the issuing
Well, I
cost,
mean, I
or, you know,
think-
I'm just kind of wondering if there's kind
Yeah,
of
I
a
mean,
ratio
I
or.
think we're close to half. What do we have? I think we had 8 in there before, 800.
870,
Loaded at 420.
837,968 for
Keep in
like,
mind, the issuance cost that we had in there also includes that cost that we were projecting for the other bond issue also,
right,
for projection purposes.
okay. Yeah, I just didn't know if there was, you know, something weird about that reduced it so much, you know, that this was a water sewer versus
No,
other
no.
projects, or
No,
what,
no,
you know,
that's-
what, you know,
that's fairly
reduced it that dramatically.
So that's fairly typical.
Okay, thank you.
Council, does anybody have anything else? This is, again, as I look through these figures, man, 2%, well, it's not exactly 2%, 2.5 or whatever, that's, wow.
Congratulations.
Is there any way that we could go in personally and? You don't
I
think
wish
that'll?
there was, Mayor.
Okay, wow. Yeah, yeah. Anybody else have anything for Mr. Allen here?
I'd just like to say that I appreciate your efforts and what you did for us today.
Absolutely, we appreciate the opportunity.
Your whole group, obviously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor, I just thought then we'd back up here and have Clay come up and he can speak just a little bit to the changes in the ordinance and
Okay.
if there's any questions for him. As we talked about last night, due to the change the council decided to make about the specifics of the issue, we had to make some changes, amendments to the ordinance, and deleted some sections. And I don't, did this get reworded, or is it the same thing that was in there before about water and sewer?
Good evening, council members. I'm Clayton Chandler with the firm of McCall Parkers and Wharton Bond Counsel to the city. The CO ordinance has been, updated and changed to reflect the reduction in the scope of the projects being financed, to the water and wastewater. And it's also been updated to reflect the pricing information that your financial advisor just reviewed with you.
But the material part for council is really only this section that changed, right? Is that pretty much right? This
That's
is
correct,
the
and
purpose.
the pricing information, that the maturity schedule.
Yeah, no, the rest of it was, as we
Rest
talked
of it.
about last night, kind of fill in the blank stuff.
That is
so.
correct.
So we just changed the wording as reflected here, and it covers all the projects we talked about before, so.
That's correct.
So Clay doesn't really
I
have
don't
a
have a whole lot to add.
presentation, just want to make sure if
I don't have
anybody
a
had
whole
any
lot to add to
questions.
that. I'm happy to take any questions, but as the city manager has just mentioned, the guts of the ordinance has not changed from what has previously been reviewed and seen by the council, and has only been updated and revised to reflect the limited scope of the projects and the pricing results.
So the limited scope of the projects that we agreed to last night.
That is correct.
Okay.
These projects right here. So that's what the,
So basically what we have is 10 water or wastewater projects that are listed there. Okay, questions, comments, council? Thank you, Clay.
thanks, Clay.
Appreciate that.
Mayor, I guess that's all we had in the way of presentation. We're ready to proceed. I shared with council some information today about this issue. I don't think there's I don't think there's any question that the action that council's been forced into, essentially to reduce the size of this CO, will end up delaying projects and costing taxpayers in Elgin hundreds of thousands of dollars as we move forward. We missed an opportunity for a great interest rate to finance these projects. But we are where we are, and I don't believe council had much of a choice, so it's important we move forward with what projects we can. Staff's ready to do that. So we'd recommend approving this ordinance this evening as presented.
Council, I'll accept a motion to approve item number 1 of the new business as presented and discussed.
I so move, Mayor.
Second.
So the motion has been made by Councilmember Dennis, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher to approve item number 1 of the new business as presented and discussed. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Dennis.
Dennis, yes.
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes.
Vega, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Ibis, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, council. Let's go to item number 2 under new business. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the issuance of City of Elgin, Texas General Obligation Refunding Bonds, Series 2021, levying an ad, there's that word again, valorem tax in support of the bonds, approving an official statement, a paying agent registrar agreement, and an escrow agreement. Other agreements relating to the sale and issuance of the bonds, calling certain obligations for redemption, and authorizing other matters relating to the issuance of the bonds. And I believe we've already discussed this information as well, didn't we?
That's correct, Mayor. This ordinance did not change, I don't think, did it, Clay? We didn't change it from the, right. That numbers, as Chris said, this was as we anticipated and planned for when we submitted this to council. This will, as Chris said, save $2 million to taxpayers over time, and secured, as he said, the best rate possible. So I don't think we have anything in particular to add to this than what we've already discussed. Recommend approval.
Council, do we have any questions or comments on item number 2 under new business? Again, that was good news that was presented to us. If you can save that much money on a refund of a bond, that's just excellent. I'll entertain a motion to pass item number 2 as presented and discussed.
Mayor, could I just,
Yes.
the way things have gone and there's been some confusion, I guess maybe we just want to stipulate, this doesn't mean the city's suddenly got $2 million. It means we're saving taxpayers $2 million over the life of the rest of these payments or tax rate. So I don't want anybody to misinterpret that. We definitely are saving taxpayers $2 million, but that doesn't mean suddenly we have another $2 million.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. So the motion was made by Councilmember Ibis, seconded by Councilmember Arriaga. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Ibis.
Ibis, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes.
Vega, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. We're going on to item 3 under new business, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Elgin, Texas, approving an escrow agreement in the amount of $329,336.27 with KB Home Lone Star Incorporated for partial construction of improvements to County Line Road pursuant to a cost participation agreement between the two parties dated January 29th, 2021, authorizing the mayor to execute said agreement and making certain findings related thereto. Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Mayor. This is, again, as said, this is approving the escrow agreement for the contribution to County Line Road that we've secured from different developers. This one is for Eagles Landing. As we talked about at length in our CO discussion, the city has made an agreement, a development agreement with each developer along County Line Road to secure, for the first time ever in the city's history, private investment by developers in public road improvements that will be necessitated along County Line Road. With Harvest Ridge, Homestead, Peppergrass, as we've shown here now, Eagles Landing with Phase 1 and Phase 2. The city has now received a total commitment of over $4 million of private dollars that will help offset the cost associated with what's a much-needed County Line Road widening project. It's important to note that these funds will only flow to the city as final plats are developed, so the city will receive this $4 million over time. But that's exactly why we tried to include this project in the CO issue, because the city will have to advance the funding on the first phase to get the project rolling, or even if we waited out till we received all this money, it would have to be at the end where every home, well, every final plat was done, essentially every development was done out there. And obviously, it would be a mistake to wait that long to improve that road. So the funding, and this amount won't pay for the full amount of Phase 1 of County Line Road. We think that with engineering costs will end up being $5.5 or $6 million. But this action tonight simply authorizes the escrow agreement to add to those funds that were the commitments that we're receiving from private developers. But as we've also discussed with council, each one of these development agreements has a time limit on when we need to start construction on County Line Road. And if we don't start construction within a 5-year period for each development, we have to refund all this money. So it'll be a missed opportunity for the city if we don't come up with the money we need to start construction on that project to move forward. In the case of the Harvest Ridge, although the 5-year time limit is a typical portion of each agreement, we've approved them at different dates. I think we're probably a year and a half maybe into the Harvest Ridge development, which is obviously the biggest contributor as shown here. So the time is, the clock's ticking on how long we'll have these funds available. But today, we have $4.2 million now committed in private funding to help support Phase 1 of County Line Road. So this action tonight is simply authorizing the developer of Phase 2 to use an escrow account for this purpose.
Council, do we have any questions or comments on that? We all know how important it is that we receive this money timely, and eventually it's going to be worth, obviously, $4 million. Now we're going to have to make sure that we hold our end of the bargain up and get that road worked on the way that we said that it's going to get worked on, the way we agreed it was going to get worked on.
What was the timeframe again for the start of construction? I don't remember.
There's a standard provision in each one of these agreements that says that we have to start construction within 5 years. But it's important to note that we've kind of signed the agreements at different times. So the Harvest Ridge was one, I'm pretty sure that's the one we signed first. So although Eagles Landing's 5 years would start now, or relatively soon, Harvest Ridge is about a year and a half old.
That's what I was gonna ask.
So the truth is, it's obviously, we wouldn't want to lose the $1.5 million, so I think that means we basically have 3 years to get started out there.
Mayor, I'd like to ask a quick question. These 5 developments, are they all in the city limits, or are they MUDs, or is it a combination?
They're all in the city limits except for Harvest Ridge, it's a MUD.
Okay.
And we have obviously a different development agreement with them, but this part of it is virtually the same as these other agreements.
Okay.
Okay. Questions or comments?
I just have a question. So the hard deadlines, the 5 years, is it when the first funds came into, that escrow account? Or is it based on each check, like 5 years from, because we're approving, this one for Eagles Landing phase 2. Do we have 5 years from this date, or is it 5 years from?
Yeah, it's 5 years from when we signed the agreement. These are
Okay.
separate agreements.
Okay, so, okay.
So that's why it's not,
But we're having to lump them together to.
right.
So the one we would lose first if we don't act is the Harvest Ridge,
Right.
the big one. Any other questions or comments, council? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve item number 3 under new business as discussed and presented?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, seconded by Councilmember Dennis to approve item number 3 under new business as presented. The vote starts with Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Aviano, yes.
Callahan, yes. Ibis, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Let's go to item number 4 under new business. An ordinance annexing adjacent and contiguous territory to the city of Elgin, Texas, to wit, 99.96 acres of land lying in and being situated out of the Thomas Christian Survey Block 26, abstract number 20, Bastrop County, Texas, and being fully described in Exhibit A attached hereto, providing for a savings clause and repealing conflicting ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is a routine voluntary annexation. Property owners, as you can see, if you get your bearings on the map we've included in the packet on the screen, this is there's actually a developer that has acquired this tract here. They either owned this one and acquired this one, or the other way around. But we've had preliminary conversations with them. This track is in the city limits now. This is the middle school there, to get your bearings right on FM 1100. They're asking to annex this property in, and then they're going to combine the two into, the plan is to another residential development. A preliminary conversation about 400 single-family homes there, which again, just another example of the need for the capital, investment in capital improvements for the water line along FM 1100 and for upgrades to County Line Road. But this action is simply to approve the request for annexation.
So basically, the nursing home, I know you don't call it a nursing home anymore.
That one.
Yeah, it's,
For retirement.
it's right there.
Okay.
This is,
So that's the big corn patch or cornfield
Right.
right there.
right,
And we're annexing
We're
the
annexing-
property behind it.
right, where it says area of annexation.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Any questions or comments?
We're not doing anything about zoning at this point, or does it automatically zone it?
Automatically comes in single family.
Okay.
Right.
I've got some
The rezoning, it automatically, under the zoning code, is R1 automatically when it comes into the city. So it'll match the zoning of the southern parcel it's contiguous to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Will the roads in this area of annexation connect to Harvest Ridge or Peppergrass? Because I'm wondering, are we gonna have an agreement for County Line Road? Because if they're coming all, through Harvest Ridge and dumping out on County Line Road as well.
No, the cost-sharing agreement only applies to properties that have frontage on County Line Road. That legally, that's the only way we can ask them to pay for that. But again, it's very preliminary in the conversations. Our objective is always to try to achieve connectivity between different developments, so we'll, I think what's different about Harvest Ridge is they're mud and they're outside the city limits, so there's some different possibilities there, but truthfully, we've got a long way to go on that part yet. We haven't even seen a concept plan from them yet.
It might mean an extra car or two on FM 1100 eventually.
That was gonna be my question, is, so 1100 widening would be the state's responsibility?
That's right. They already have a project in their pipeline to widen 1100 and of course change the big curve out there as well.
But that's not the same developer as Harvest Ridge or the same owner or anything?
That's the annexation that we're talking about?
Right.
No, these are different owners,
Okay.
different.
Because I was just wondering, because like, we're talking about Eagles Landing Phase 2, which, just Phase 1, I was just wondering how, it was so different that we can't, get.
Yeah, they're all different developers, and again, it's they have direct access onto County Line Road. That's the difference with all the other developers.
Okay.
Frontage and direct access.
Thank you.
Council, do we have any other comments, any other questions?
How long do you think it would be before they'd start building there?
Oh, I think that it's still a while. Like I said, they haven't even filed a concept plan. We haven't had any conversations with them. The other projects that are under construction out there, Peppergrass, from raw land to building houses took a year and a half, and they tried to move as fast as they could. So it'll be a little while yet before they're driving nails out there.
But there's no doubt in my mind that's gonna happen. That's a good piece of property.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would just qualify my last answer to say that the trick on that is always, frankly, how fast does a developer want to move? If they want to spend the money and time to get through our system quickly, they can do that.
Has that lot south of the annexation, has that sold yet?
Yes, that's the same owners now
They
have
did sell
both. They're the ones that have asked for this one to come in to combine the two.
Okay, good. Any more questions or comments? Do I hear a motion to pass item number 4 under new business as presented?
So moved.
This is one quiet council, I'm gonna tell you.
I'll
So
second
moved.
it.
Seconded by, okay, so the motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, seconded by Councilmember Dennis to approve item number 4 as presented and discussed. The vote starts with Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes.
Vega, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Ibis, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Let's go to number 5 under new business. An ordinance assigning newly annexed property to City Council Ward Area Number 3, providing for a severability clause and providing an effective date, providing for a savings clause, and repealing conflicting ordinances or resolutions. Tom?
Mayor, pretty much just as stated in the heading, this is a routine step with any property we annex. It seems natural out there to assign this area to Ward 3, so we're compelled to assign it to a ward at any property we annex. So it's just a routine follow-up to any annexation.
Because Ward 3 doesn't have any citizens out there, do they? I guess they do, okay, all right.
Y'all better make this motion,
You
people.
probably need like 2 more council members for Ward 3.
Do what?
Probably gonna need like 2 more for Ward 3.
I would just say
That's
for the,
interesting, interesting.
sorry.
I said that, I told Thomas that he gets all the rats and rattlesnakes that are out there.
Yeah, because I don't think there's anybody living on this property, right?
Yeah,
No,
no.
it's a pasture.
not gaining any voters.
Okay, but we know it's gonna go now to Ward 3 if we approve this motion, this ordinance. Do I hear a motion?
Well, I just have a question about that. You know, I know it was a joke, but I'm just kind of wondering, you know, with all this new development in Ward 3, how often, you know, redistricting or, you know, adding another ward, you know, I mean, is there a set process for that? Because Ward 3 is
No, it's all, again, it's all about growth. It's all about growth and development and how that happens. As more residents accumulate out there, I think there's no question that the redesigning the lines will be in the city's future, but you actually, like most things, you need the people to move in out there before the vote count changes, and then there's a very specific process you go through and have to get sign off from the Department of Justice and for any changes like that. So I don't see that happening in the next couple of years, but certainly in 3 to 5 years, it's probably something the city will want to take on.
okay, but it's not something, you know, with you know, every 10 years with the census, or there's no set.
Now, if you've got good wards and districts and your town never grows, then there's no, and you have the right distribution of classifications of people and neighborhoods, then there's plenty. That's why plenty of cities up north have the same districts for many years, because they don't ever grow.
Because they're moving here.
So that's a good question, Thomas. That's a good question, and I went through one in my term, my first term, I believe it was, and it is a very complicated, very intense procedure.
Well, that's why, you know, I just think, you know, just in the back of, you know, city's mind, you know, that it's gonna come up.
Okay.
I mean, I guess just to be clear, I think the council can decide to do that anytime.
Okay.
I'm just suggesting to you that until we get more people in these houses that we know are going to get built and coming, I think it'd be hard to judge that because we still can't be positive that all these houses are going to get built and occupied. So it really is just a thing you have to monitor as time goes by.
Tom, I'm thinking back when we went through it, that the council made the decision to submit,
Right.
but it still has to be approved, and not just by us. It has to be approved at higher levels. Yeah.
The biggest reason there are wards and districts and voting is to assure minority representation. So that's why the Department of Justice, no matter what you do, they're going to have to sign off on it. So it is, as the mayor says, it's a elongated, well, anytime you involve the federal government, you know, it's going to be a complicated process.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions or comments? Do I hear a motion to pass item number 5 under new business?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Second. Okay. The motion was made by Councilmember Ibis, seconded by Councilmember Aliaga to approve item number 5 as presented and discussed. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Ibis.
Ibis, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Fraser, yes?
Ramirez, yes.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Aviara, yes.
Maldonado, yes. Callahan, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Passes unanimously. Item number 6, an ordinance of the City of Elgin, Texas, annexing 283.115 acres, more or less, for a limited purpose, which includes all real property within the Altesa Municipal Utility District, making findings of fact, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is actually a kind of a cleanup on something the council had acted on previously. If you recall that we have negotiated and agreed to a limited purpose annexation on both the Brixton Mud and the Saltessa Mud, focused primarily on the requests of the developers to take their projects out of the jurisdiction, the planning review jurisdiction of Travis County, due to the fact that they have very specific development agreements with the City of Elgin, and to move those projects into City of Elgin's development review and process. The Brixton development in its entirety is in Travis County, so we did a much bigger agreement with them. If you recall, in this situation, the Altessa Mud is the blue line on the screen here that shows this picture is actually what the Travis County line kind of looks like approximately. So which is always important to say, County Line Road is not really on the county line. So the frontage, this is an approximate picture, the frontage there of the Altessa Mud is actually technically in Travis County's development review jurisdiction. So we reached an agreement with Altessa where they made the choice to have the city of Elgin take over their development review. Now, what the difference is, the back half of this, the majority of the Altessa Mud is already in Bastrop County, and we already have an agreement with Bastrop County where we do development review for them. So the council had previously acted on this and approved the actual limited purpose annexation agreement with Altessa, but we didn't at that time do the actual annexation. So this action tonight, if I have another screen, this action tonight is simply to follow up on that agreement before and to annex this in for development purposes. Now again, we have a separate development agreement with the Altessa Mud, which will be called Harvest Ridge. They will be outside the city's jurisdiction. They won't pay city taxes. This limited purpose annexation is just as it says. It's annexation for the limited purpose of development review only. That's all we've agreed to do. That's all the services they'll get from us outside of our development agreement. So it's strictly, frankly, it's just strictly so the developers don't have to go through Travis County's processes.
Do we understand the reason for that? And understand that it's not a regular annexation at all? Okay, do we have any comments, questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Pass item number 6 as discussed and presented.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I have a second.
Okay, motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, seconded by Councilmember Ibis to approve item number 6 as presented. We'll start the vote with Council Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes?
Higa, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Ibis, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, council, that's all the business under new business. We have no reason to go into executive session tonight. Do we have any announcements? Any announcements to make? Staff?
Yeah, I guess I have one announcement, Mayor, if I couldn't make it.
Yes.
That, we hit an important threshold in the history of the city of Elgin. I think it was May 1st, maybe, that Amy Miller completed 25 years of service to the city of Elgin here. And I assume that meant she started working here when she was 16, but it's a big day. That's a huge accomplishment for her and an accomplishment for the city. So we're having a little reception for her next Tuesday. Is that right? Tuesday. It's kind of yeah, I got to remind, it's going to have cake, so I had to make sure I said that. But it's kind of a come and go thing. I'll send the council the details, but hopefully you can join us. And if you can't, I know you join me in congratulating Amy on a job well done, service to the city.
Congratulations, Amy. Being in your position for 25 years, that's an accomplishment, because it's tough. Any other announcements? Okay, council, do you have any other business to discuss? No other business to discuss. I'll adjourn the meeting at 8:04 p.m.